Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgier kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. What you do is absolutely amazing, and it definitely helps us keep up bringing out new content and staying up to date. And a big thank you to our good friends over at Critical Failures. We're part of a live stream game every Wednesday night. So if you want to see me play a deranged clown, definitely check that out. With all that out of the way, we're going to get into this week's video. We're going to talk about the GRUNG. So the GRUNG come to us from a special kind of release thing where they did this as a charity event, where if you bought this source material, it was donated to a charity. This happened a little while ago. I can't remember what charity that was, but it was something that definitely came through. Now, GRUNG are very unique in what they are. First and foremost, they are frog people. They kind of look like poison dart frogs. They are weird. They are kind of separated almost by color. There are a bunch of different kinds of grungs that are kind of part of a weird caste system where it goes from lowest to highest, green, blue, purple, red, orange, or gold. So you kind of can fit that into your character. I like the idea of maybe it being very feudal, the system, or something like almost like a gangster hierarchy where you just have some people that are just higher up, or like certain people can only reach certain things or be able to have certain positions. This is a great opportunity to create almost your own unique system for wild poisonous animals. If you are like me and you love poison, this is one of the species for you. I tend to really hate small species, but this is part of the few that is able to skate through without me hating them, like the goblins and the kobolds. Outside of that, I tend to not like them at all, but I gotta give my love up to the GRUNG for being a cute little frog that lets you poison things. Alright, so grungs adhere to a strict caste system, and this is based on the color of your grung when they're born. They're all kind of grayish, and as they evolve from that early stage of amphibian-like life, they develop these different colors. So green are warriors, hunters, and laborers. Blue are like artisans and people who do kind of like building and creating things at a normal kind of level, like city level. And then they are both supervised by purple grungs, which serve as like administrators and commanders. Red grungs are scholars and magic users, and they are again superior to purple, blue, and green. And higher castes include the orange grungs, which are the elite warriors and have authority over all other grungs. And gold grungs hold the highest leadership positions, and a tribe sovereign is always a gold grung. So if you want to be leader of the tribe, you will be gold. That's how it works through their lore. There is a unique way where you can evolve past your caste. And if you do such a great thing, or you're that heroic in combat, or you save the village, or whatever it is, they do a strange ritual involving herbs and magics that changes your color and puts you into that newer caste, where you would be inducted in, and then from then on, you and your family members, like your children from then on, are part of that caste, which is weird. It's a strange thing, but the color holds position, you know? It's just kind of one of those weird things that exist in Dungeons and Dragons. Also, it's important to note, they are usually evil. They are highly territorial. They are predatorial. They will enslave everything. They are a very poisonous species. So when they do find slaves, they constantly poison them a little bit to prevent them from ever being strong enough to revolt or escape. And eventually that ends up permanently doing damage, where they become shells or just kind of like broken versions of themselves, and the only way to bring them back to their normal state is through magic, which I imagine is probably at least a greater restoration kind of a spell. But it could be lower restoration depending on kind of the circumstances, I imagine. But they are evil, and they tend to thoroughly go out of their way to enslave anyone that comes into their territory, which is weird because they're at most 3.5 feet tall. So it's interesting. They are very tribal. They mostly live in forests, so imagine super humid areas. If you're in like an area where there's lizard folk, where there's Yonti, that's a great place where Grung can kind of also fit into that circumstance. It's really that kind of jungle, humid, rainforesty kind of circumstance that really puts them in the area, and they're great for enemies to encounter. They have a lot of cool tricks that really are bad for players to deal with. So it's a great thing for DMs to use them if they're interested. Again, their alignment is lawful because they do live in a strict caste system, and they tend towards evil because they are big fans of slaving anything else that they can. So they usually fit into that, which is a great thing for me because I happen to really love that alignment. They gain an ability called arboreal alertness. They have proficiency in the perception skill, which is great. You're a hunter, you live in the rainforest. It's very, very dangerous. In order to survive and be skillful in that environment, being perceptive really makes sense. Your size is again between 2.5 and 3 feet tall. You average about 30 pounds. Your size is small. I know I tend to hate the small folk, but I'm a big fan of amphibians. Your walking speed is 25, but you do have sticky fingers and toe pads that give you a climbing speed of 25 feet, which means you don't really have to make a check. You can just climb 25 feet. If you ever played a Dhampir, you'll start to appreciate the value of being able to climb things. This does state that you do have sticky hands and toe pads, so my inclination is that you have to use all of those things to make you climb. Talk that over with your DM, but if you're in a cave or anything, there is no reason why you should be walking on the ground. You might be better off walking on the ceiling. It might give you a better circumstance to avoid initial hits in combat and the opportunity to jump down from the sky and attack your enemy, which is awesome. You are amphibious. You can breathe air and water, which is great. And if you're ever in a seafaring campaign or in an area where you're close to an ocean or a sea or a river or anything, that might be very beneficial, especially if you're doing espionage, adventuring type things where you try to gather information without being seen. You are immune to poison damage and the poison condition, which makes a lot of sense because of your next following ability, which is poisonous skin. Any creature that grapples you or otherwise comes into direct contact with your skin must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or become poisoned for 1 minute. A poison creature no longer in direct contact with you can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, adding the effect on itself on a success. You can also apply this poison to any piercing weapon as part of the attack with that weapon. Though when you hit, the poison reacts differently. The target must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or take 2d4 damage, poison damage. Understand a couple of things about this. First and foremost, any creature that grapples you or otherwise comes into direct contact with your skin must succeed on DC 12 saving throw or become poisoned for a minute. This is not limited. If they make that save, that does not mean that they don't make it the next turn. They are not immune to it after they've made the save, so it's a constant effect going. So if you grab onto something, if you're fighting a larger creature, you can grab onto it and hold onto it, and every time it takes its turn or that action occurs, or you can let go and then reattach yourself, that's another opportunity for them to fail that Constitution saving throw. It's a low DC, but you have infinite times to apply it. So you should be putting this on with everything. Because once it lands, and eventually it's going to land, they cannot make a saving throw until it is no longer in direct contact with you. And that makes it wildly strong. Because if you're poisoned, you have disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. Disadvantage permanently until you let go of it. Understand how powerful it is. There is no save to that. It's just until you let go, then they can make the save up to with a maximum duration of a minute. The alternative, every attack you make with a piercing weapon, you should be throwing on this poison. Because granted, again, it's a low DC on a Constitution saving throw. But they will eventually fail it because it is going to be a constant thing if you use martial weapons or any kind of other weapon, simple weapons that have the piercing attribute to it. That 2d4 poison damage is part of the attack. It will crit. Again, if you were going for a poisoner build, which is very difficult to do, this is something you would need. Definitely want this added on because it's an opportunity to continuously do 2d4 poison damage. You also gain an ability called Standing Leap. Your long jump is up to 25 feet, and your high jump is up to 15 feet, with or without a running start. That makes sense. You're a frog, they leap. It's more so, from my experiences, something that you can use for just describing how you're moving from place to place. I can imagine they hop a lot more than they do walk, so that makes sense to me. But that's something you would have to, work out with how you want to play your character. They do suffer from water dependency. If you fail to immerse yourself in water for at least 1 hour during a day, you suffer 1 level exhaustion at the end of that day. You can recover this exhaustion only through magic or by immersing yourself in water for at least 1 hour. The Lokatha has something very similar to this. You're a humid environment kind of creature, so I really don't think that it's a super difficult thing to find some sort of water to dunk a 3.5 foot tall entity in. You can just get a barrel and hop in there for an hour every day. Again, that's kind of up to you and your party, but if you get a bag of holding, definitely throw a barrel of water in there, pull it out, hop in for an hour, or get an endless decanter of water, or happen to be in an environment where water is plenty available. Or at least if it rains somewhat consistently, I think that works out as well, because you are being immersed in water. If it's raining hard enough, you're going to be drenched. And then you do get the languages of reading, writing, and speaking Grung. It does not say you speak Common, so keep that in mind. You might be difficult to communicate with. As a guy that happens to really, really enjoy horror movies, if you've ever seen Green Inferno, that's kind of what I'd put Grung under. I really feel comfortable playing a character kind of like from that. It is a horror movie. It is a very specific kind of horror movie, so it's not really up to everybody's kind of taste. But if you are into Eli Roth and his movies, definitely check that one out. It's a good one. And it does give you a great framework for the dangers of a jungle society that kind of believes in their own elitism and has that kind of caste system where they're very aggressive and territorial for their own places, which is a great way to set up villains, enemies. If you want to build a one-shot, this is a very, very cool one to do, with Grung being your enemies. That being said, we're going to bring this video to a close. If you've made it this far, definitely hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And a big thank you to our good friends over at Critical Failures. We're part of a live stream game every Wednesday night. Check us out. And thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.